Hi, lads and lassies. This is Ryan.
And this is Kyle.
And you're listening to
The Doctor's Watcher, the only podcast about every episode of Doctor Who. Yeah, I think my accent slipped a bit there, but...
Yeah, that's okay. Probably happens to, Scottish people even.
Yeah.
They're like, how do we keep up this wee accent? Whoops, that was not even Scottish. Like, where did that come from?
You mean I talk like this my whole life?
I cannot keep this up. This is too much. So, maybe I can do this in an accent. So, two blokes are relaxing out on the deck of a cruise ship, reading books. One of them looks to the other and says, "Mate, have you read Marx?" The other replies, I think it's from these bloody deck chairs.
Nice, that's a good one.
Thank you. So how have you been in the 2-week interim since last episode?
Been doing all right. My partner and I have been watching Battlestar Galactica recently.
Ooh, which old one or the newer one?
The newer one. And
nice.
Yeah, we watched it, back in, I don't know, probably 2010 or 2012 or somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
And decided recently to rewatch it. So we've been doing that. That's been pretty entertaining.
Yeah, so say we all. That's a good show.
So you've watched it, I assume?
I have.
Nice, yeah.
I found the end to be pretty meh. Most of the rest of the show, like leading up to where they really dropped the ball, was awesome.
Yeah, we're a few episodes into the final season. So I think we're on probably episode 4 or 5 or something.
Cool.
And yeah, the first 3 seasons are all really good in, somewhat different ways, and they do kind of different things with them, but they're all really interesting. The 4th season is starting to already kind of go off the rails a little bit, but we'll see how it goes. Mm-hmm. I do remember thinking that the end was kind of weird, but I don't remember very much about what happens plot wise because it's been a while since I watched it. So
yeah, same here. I mean, I kind of remember some of the details, or one of the big things that was that was fucking stupid. But yeah, it was kind of, it just didn't really match up to the rest of the show, I think was the biggest thing. It's they're, I don't know, it felt like such a non sequitur compared to the rest of the show, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does kind of take a turn and start doing things that they haven't really done at all in the other 3 seasons.
Yeah, you're just where did that come from? This Deus Ex Machina flavored bullshit.
Yeah,
what the hell, people? Did the writers just say, we're done? We don't really want to try anymore. Because that's kind of what it felt like.
I did notice, actually, this is kind of only just now occurring to me, but, in the first 3 seasons, they have, the whole intro that's about, Cylons have a plan and everything. Mm-hmm. And then in season 4, they've actually, changed the intro, and it doesn't say that they have a plan anymore. And I'm maybe that's because, it all went off the rails and the writers don't have a plan now.
Yeah. Probably. They were let's do the Lost thing where we just kind of say some crap and then the next episode we have to deal with whatever we said and say a bunch of new random crap.
And yeah, like that can be fun and entertaining. Like if you know that that's what it is going in and you don't expect anything more of it. But like when they haven't spent 3 seasons setting it up to be that and it's been something different, then when they kind of shift into that, it's like, wait a sec.
Right. Exactly. But yeah, like I really liked, the format of that show. I liked how sometimes in between seasons you'd get like a movie length kind of, in between piece.
Mm-hmm.
Those are really cool. Even though I don't, like you said, it's been such a long time since I watched those too. But like there's one that I remember being really good where they like encountered like a different ship or something like that.
Yeah,
that they hadn't seen before. Or
the
something
Pegasus,
like
I think.
Yeah. And yeah, there's just so many cool twists and turns and like weird machinations and stuff going on there, and like people that are Cylons that you don't know are Cylons, people that aren't Cylons that you think probably are Cylons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you never really quite know, at least for much of the show, like who's what, who's a Cylon and who's people.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, that was good shit. And that was Ronald Moore, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Dude's involved in all sorts of good shows.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, speaking of Ronald Moore, who also is involved in Outlander, perhaps we should discuss the inspiration, continue discussing the Doctor Who inspiration of Outlander.
Indeed. So this is the 18th episode of season 4. It is the 4th episode of The Highlanders. So this episode, I watched another loose cannon reconstruction. Nothing too notable or anything to say about that other than thanks loose cannon.
Indeed. As always, coming in clutch for Doctor Who fans.
Indeed.
So last episode, Ben and we were dangling both above and under the waters of the ocean.
We were. We had a ship dingler rather than a cliff dingler.
Right.
So, yeah, I think when I first watched episode 3, I thought that they just like cut the rope or something and like were just dumping him in the ocean. But he's actually still attached to the rope. They just like lowered it into the ocean, I guess. But, they still like dropped him in. It was, they didn't like slowly lower him. They like dropped the rope in. But they wait a while and then they pull the rope back up out of the water. But Ben is no longer attached to the rope.
Uh-oh. Damn it, we lost the bait.
Uh-huh. They look out over the water, like trying to find him or whatever, but they don't see him. They don't see like any bubbles coming up or anything. So there's no sign of Ben. And that is because he somehow escaped from all the ropes that were binding him and swam underneath the boat and surfaces on the other side where they're not looking for him.
Nice. Bendini.
Indeed. So yeah, he comes up on the other side. He, pauses for a few moments to make sure that they're not looking for him over here. And And then he swims back to shore.
Well, that is a very person of action move. Good job, Ben.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Ben, if he was not before, he's definitely person of action now.
Yes, he has officially acted.
Mm-hmm. So he gets back to shore. He climbs up onto a jetty, and he's like catching his breath and whatever. And he is almost immediately held at bayonet point by an English soldier.
Oh, man. Well, at least he's English.
Uh-huh. He's basically ready to give up. He's like, fuck this. I just swam back and whatever. But it turns out that this English soldier is actually the doctor in disguise.
Who else would be walking around the jetty at this time of night dressed like a soldier who'd been wounded in battle?
Ben's like, yeah, I guess so.
No one other than a soldier who had been wounded in battle, I guess.
The doctor basically just gives Ben a gun and starts loading a bunch of other guns onto a rowboat to take out to the Annabelle.
Nice.
Back on the Annabelle, Trask is meeting with Gray, Solicitor Gray, and his clerk Perkins. I think the only main point of this meeting or this scene is to just remind us of what's happening and what the deal is and everything, which of course is that Gray and Perkins have brought all these Highlander prisoners onto the ship, and Trask is going to sail them to Barbados so they can be sold and enslaved. But they have to carry this out kind of secretly because it's not quite exactly legal. Gray is the king's, minister of prisoners or whatever. And he's kind of just diverting this group of prisoners to the slave trade instead of prison.
So I guess it could almost be said that he was, in a sense, stealing from the king.
Yeah. Yeah, in a sense.
Huh. What a piece of shit.
Uh-huh.
All right. Not that I'm anti-stealing from the king, but I still stand by my judgment.
Uh-huh. Trask kind of wonders what would happen if the Duke found out that we were doing all this, but Gray says that they don't need to worry about that because Gray and Perkins and Trask are the only three people who know about it. So basically, as long as the three of them don't tell the Duke, then it's fine.
All right, we'll see. Okay.
Uh-huh. Ben and Polly and Kirsty and the doctor are finally all together again in a barn. The GM has finally managed to get the party basically reunited, other than Jamie, but he's still kind of an NPC at this point. Ben is explaining to them how he got free from the ropes.
Well, it's the old Houdini trick, Duchess. You flex your muscles when they tie you up. Then when you're ready, you relax them. Well, that way you're half the size you were before. Get it?
Nice. Also, flexing your muscles doubles your size. Damn, buddy.
Yeah, you must be ripped.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that trick would work for me.
Right? I get I don't know, a centimeter more or something. If that. But all right, cool. Good job, Ben.
Yeah,
Again,
seriously.
very, very action person, very, workout person.
Uh-huh. They go over the plan that they've come up with, which is for Ben to row the doctor out to the ship. The doctor's going to board, and then Ben is going to row kind of around the back of the ship, and while Trask and whoever is distracted dealing with the doctor, Ben is going to pass all the weapons through the portholes, basically, to the prisoners.
Nice.
I guess Polly and Kirsty are going to sit around on the shore and wait. And Polly's like, that's bullshit. And she talks the doctor into letting them come on the rowboat as well.
We're not going to let you two out of our sights, are we, Kirsty? Well, you get into such terrible trouble without us.
Suppose so. I mean, they've been pretty much hitting home runs since they split up. And then, the guys have been like getting captured and dunked, and Ben did some cool shit, but for the most part, they've been like not totally taking advantage of like British officers and crap like that. And
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Like, Kirsty does kind of have to like keep getting talked into every plan, but then once they actually execute the plan, like, seems to always go pretty well.
Right. All right. just wanted to point that out. I agree with that.
Gray and Perkins are discussing their plans. Gray is like, instructing Perkins on how he needs to collect 3,500 guineas in gold on delivery of the prisoners. But this discussion gets interrupted by a big commotion, which is basically the doctor coming on board the ship and Trask bringing the doctor over to see Gray.
As has got company, Mr. Solicitor. Caught him coming over the side. Bold as a Welsh pirate.
Are Welsh pirates super bold?
I guess so, yeah.
I'm not sure if that's racist or not, but kind of makes Welsh pirates sound cool.
The doctor is back using his fake German accent again, and he says that he has a token for Gray, and he basically shows Gray the Prince Charles ring in his inventory that he got from Kirsty. Gray's like, oh shit, that's the Prince Charles ring. How'd you get it? And the doctor explains that Prince Charles disguised himself as just a regular Highlander and got taken prisoner with the rest of them. Gray wonders, like, where the prince is now, and the doctor's like,
I wonder what that information would be worth. Now let me see.
Nice.
Gray basically asks the doctor how much he thinks it would be worth, and the doctor suggests 10,000 guineas.
Yeah, seems good. Seems like a lot of guineas.
Meanwhile, out in the thick fog surrounding the ship, the rowboat has circled around to the other side, and Kirsty is, looking through the different portholes until she finds her father. She, passes him a pistol and tells him to come close to learn the plan.
It's a miracle. I must be in a dream.
It's no dream. We've got arms for all of you and a plan.
Nice.
We cut back to Gray. He has agreed to the doctor's terms. I guess, I don't know if that means 10,000 guineas or if they negotiated off camera, but either way,
okay,
they're agreed. The doctor then tells him that the prince is actually right here on this very ship, and he describes Jamie.
Oh, interesting.
He's like the bagpiper with like fine hair or whatever. Gray.
Like, are we assuming Charles knew how to bagpipe? Charles was he Scottish? He's Scottish.
I think so.
Prince.
Yeah.
I think historically he was like not actually Scottish. Not totally sure about that.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure either.
Okay. Anyway, sorry.
So yeah, he basically describes Jamie. Gray is like, you better be fucking sure about this. And the doctor's just like, would I have rolled a nat 20 on my bluff check if I wasn't sure?
Nice.
So Gray and Perkins and Trask are all like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. And they all rush off to go look for the prince. And the doctor stops them, asks them if they're forgetting something.
What? I'm the only one who knows what he looks like.
So they bring the doctor along with them.
Are you struggling with the stresses of modern life? Here is an easy solution for all of your problems. First, relax. Then, open up your browser or your podcast listening device. Navigate to the Doctor's Watcher and begin leaving 5-star ratings. You will soon feel the stress begin to melt away. Once you begin sharing the podcast with friends and family, you will feel enveloped in a warm, calm, peaceful feeling. Relax.
A pretty good bluff check, I think.
Yeah, that one worked out.
So they all head down into the hold. All the Highlanders all appear to be sleeping. And Trask and Perkins and Gray and the doctor all start quietly searching through the hold of the ship until the doctor finds Jamie and points him out. So Gray and Perkins come over to check him out. And, you know, once they're all like deep into the hold, Kirsty's father, Colin, jumps up, shouts a Scottish battle cry, and then all the rest of the Highlanders all jump up and they go into combat.
Nice.
The combat goes on for a while. You know, not much dialogue. It's a reconstruction, so we're a lot of the time just kind of cutting back and forth between like the same 2 or 3 still images of people fighting and stuff. Mm-hmm. Lots of sounds of swords clashing. But eventually Jamie manages to force Trask overboard. And once this has happened, the former captain of the ship, Captain Willie, gets up where everyone can see and hear him. And he's like, hey, everyone, how about instead of continuing to fight, you all just be my crew and we can all go to France.
Nice. That sounds nice. That sounds like a good alternative.
Yeah, totally. Everyone actually is pretty into this idea. So they all exit combat.
Nice.
The doctor and his friends are like, we've got to get back ashore. And then the whole English army is still kind of like in between us and the TARDIS.
Awkward.
They figure they can take Gray and Perkins with them as hostages and like, you know, use hostages basically to safely negotiate their way through the English army.
Yeah, I mean, normally, but like, if you're talking about a solicitor, like, no one likes solicitors or lawyers, especially not if they're like, you know, might be slavers.
Yeah, totally.
But I guess that's all they have to go on for now. Like their main option.
Perkins hears them discussing this and he's like, hey, fuck Gray. Let me go to France with the ship. I actually speak French, so like maybe they could do with my clerking skills and shit. And yeah, so the people on the ship agree to that. They let him go. And we cut to sometime later where Ben and Polly and the doctor are onshore, and they've got Solicitor Gray with them, and they're looking through the thick fog. I guess the Annabelle had told them that they would, like, you know, put up a signal flare or whatever before they sail off to France. So they're looking for, you know, this goodbye signal. And Polly's commenting on how they didn't even say goodbye to Jamie. And Ben's like,
No, he just disappeared. I wonder where he went to.
Right here.
Jamie!
By himself.
and yeah, Jamie's there on shore with them. He's offering to lead them through the glen. It is not at all clear how he got on shore with them. I don't know if this is, like, better explained in the original episode, but it's kind of just not really explained in the reconstruction.
Nice. I'm here. I have plot transportation.
Uh-huh.
Didn't you know?
I guess maybe, like, if he was in the very back of the rowboat and, like, the fog was thick enough that they couldn't see to the other side of the rowboat, and he was just really quiet the whole time.
Right, and they're sitting there like, damn, this rowboat seems extra hard to row. I can't tell why, but like, is it heavier than usual?
Feels like
Is
there's
this
there's more weight in this rowboat. I don't know.
yeah. Like, is there something stuck to the outside that's like causing all this drag, or what's going on?
They have to hide suddenly because there are some English soldiers that, you know, appear on their little mini map. So they drag their prisoner Gray into a nearby boathouse, but he shouts for help. You know, Ben, like, clamps his hand over Gray's mouth, but not before Gray does actually get a shout or two out. And the soldiers hear, and they come looking. Ben and Jamie and the doctor actually take the soldiers out, like, really quickly and easily as soon as they enter the boathouse. It's like, you know, combat round. They're hiding, so they jump out and get a surprise round, surprise action, and just, like, yeah, take the soldiers right out.
Nice. Just like chop them all at the base of the skull, and they're just all knocked out immediately.
Pretty much, yeah. But during the scuffle, Gray manages to escape. Ben's like,
But he was our hostage and never let us get through the TARDIS now.
but the doctor's not too concerned. He's just like,
We'll find someone else. Hey, Polly?
and yeah, he looks over at Polly, and then we cut to Ben holding FFinch at gunpoint.
Nice.
Yeah, they apparently found him, like, in the officers' club or whatever.
Poor FFinch. Not that he deserves sympathy, but
They start to lead him away to, you know, come help them out or whatever. But his boss, the colonel, stops them because it's FFinch's turn to deal in the card game. And, you know, the colonel is like, who the fuck are these people anyway? And the doctor puts his fake German accent back on and shows them the Prince Charles ring. And he's like, hey, look, I've got Prince Charles's ring. And FFinch's boss, the colonel, is like, yeah, okay, cool. You should definitely go with them then and, like, get the prince and bring him back.
nice.
We cut to early the next morning. Jamie has led them back to the cottage from the first episode. I guess, you know, FFinch safely got them through the English army, you know, off screen.
Nice.
And during the off-screen journey, Polly has told Finch all about Solicitor Gray and his various schemings and doings and whatnot. So, you know, they've like caught Finch up. He's like all on board to go catch Gray and everything. and they're about to let FFinch go when Gray actually just shows up. The doctor starts talking about like what wicked times they all live in.
A prison commissioner using his office to smuggle rebels out of the country.
Gray insists that it was all legal, like they signed the transportation contracts of their own free will, and he reaches into his pockets to like pull the contracts out and like show them to everyone, but the contracts are not there.
Yeah, no, it was all above board, sign or die. They signed.
But yeah, then he can't even actually prove that they signed. So FFinch arrests him and takes him away. And like as Finch leaves with Gray, he basically warns the doctor and his friends that they'd better not stick around if they don't want to get captured again. And yeah, so the two of them leave. The doctor pulls the contracts out of his own pocket, and they're like, oh, I wonder how they got there.
Nice. Good sleight of hand roll on that one.
They start to wonder what they should do with Jamie, who led them through the glen, got them back to the cottage and everything, since his ship has literally sailed. He, apparently had decided that he would rather like stay here than go off to France. And, so that's like why he helped them out and get back and everything. But what are they going to do with him now? Polly's like, maybe he should come with us. And the doctor's like,
If he teaches me to play the bagpipes.
If you want, Doctor.
That's all we need.
Come on, Jamie.
Nice.
And yeah, Jamie's like, where are we going? And they're just like, you'll see.
Yeah. We can't really tell you. You won't believe us until you get there.
So they head back to the TARDIS. Jamie watches Ben and the doctor both enter the TARDIS. He, seems kind of unsure about things, but Polly basically just like takes his hand and pulls him in after her. And the door closes and the TARDIS dematerializes, and the words on the screen say Doctor Who Patrick Troughton.
Nice. So now we had a nice Highlander adventure and came out of it with a new Highlander companion. Who knows for how long or how he's even going to react, but cool. That's fun.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty fun and entertaining or interesting. They are taking him, without fully informing him of what they're doing or where they're going. Like, maybe they should have mentioned the whole we might never come back to 18th century Scotland again thing.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's a little rude. Like, hey, come with us. It'll be fun. By the way, you're never coming back.
You were upending your entire life.
Yeah. You will never see your loved ones or your land again. But it'll be fun. But yeah, that's cool. That was a fun little historical jaunt.
Yeah.
I did even learn some, historical facts, like they used, of course, the British, they'll probably just use anyone for slaves, but I did not really realize that they used Scottish Highlanders in their slave trade.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I had known that before this either.
So yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and decided no matter what anyone says, that is awesome. That I will forever now believe that this serial inspired Outlander.
Yeah, so we talked about that a little bit a few episodes ago, but I actually wanted to mention it again now that Jamie is like becoming a companion. I actually went and found a quote, like the relevant quote. You can find it on Diana Gabaldon's WordPress site, like on her FAQ. And in answering the question, so where did you get the idea to write these books? She says, if you mean where did I get the idea to write a book, period, I always knew I was meant to write novels. I just didn't know how. Finally decided I should try, and luckily I turned out to be reasonably good at it. If you mean, why did I write books set in Scotland, but that otherwise defy description? It was an accident. I thought I'd write a book for practice, just to learn how, and I thought perhaps a historical novel would be the easiest thing for me to write. I was, after all, a research professor. I knew what to do with the library, so where to set this practice book? Well, I happened to see a Doctor Who rerun in a weak-minded moment, and was taken by a minor character, a young Scotsman from 1745 who appeared in his kilt. Well, that's fetching, I said. Yeah, why not? Scotland, 18th century. So that's where I began, knowing nothing about Scotland or the 18th century, with no plot, no outline, no characters, nothing but the rather vague images conjured up by a man in a kilt, which is, of course, a very powerful and compelling image.
Yeah, I suppose so. Considering what it turned into, damn, lady.
Yeah, seriously.
Nice. That's a fun story.
So, yeah, we can't say that, like, Outlander's Jamie is, like, based on Doctor Who Jamie, but he is definitely, like, inspired by and named after Doctor Who Jamie.
That's pretty cool.
And, yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Entire setting of 18th century Scotland in Outlander is because she saw a random Doctor Who episode.
Rad. I wonder, one hopes that the writers of this Doctor Who episode survived long enough, or serial survived long enough to find out, like, what they had inspired.
Yeah, totally.
Years later. Because that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I also kind of wonder, like, what she would have written instead of the Outlanders if she had not seen it, or if she saw, like, a different random Doctor Who rerun.
Yeah. Or, like, if she'd seen, Star Trek or something. Would it be set on, Kronos? Like some Klingon word for foreigner? Well, that's cool. That was definitely a fun little serial. Would you say you recommend it?
It was a pretty fun one. I do wish that it wasn't missing. There are, like, some fight scenes I would have liked to have actually seen. There were, some parts that were kind of not fully clear what was happening that maybe are more clear in the original thing. So, yeah, I think it does lose a bit in the reconstruction, but it was pretty fun overall. It was the introduction of Jamie, who, seems to be a new companion now. I don't think I mentioned it at the time, but it did contain at least one instance of the Doctor saying that he would like a hat like that, which I think he also said in The Power of the Daleks.
Oh, yeah, right.
So
I guess he likes hats. Well, didn't he, like, immediately throw it down, though?
Yeah, he did find that one hat and then threw it down because it was, like, in deference to the prince or whatever.
Right.
And that was, when the Outlanders were like, no, fuck that. Like, we think the prince is cool, so.
Right. Well, that's cool.
So, yeah, I would say if the serial were not missing, this would be a stronger recommendation. But as it is, I would give it a soft recommend.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, we got some pretty good action both from Polly and Ben at different times. I particularly like what Polly and
Kirsty.
Thank you. I suck so bad with names. Polly and Kirsty pulled off with FFinch, and
definitely.
Like that sort of defined, their a lot of what they did later on too.
I think Polly's also, has earned the person of action label as well as Ben.
Yeah.
Like she's coming up with all these plans, they're executing on them, and it's like setting them up for success later on.
Right. And she was kind of on her own a lot of the time for this serial. And, kind of when they got back together, she's like, I'm fucking coming with you. Like, you can't just shut me off. Like, I'm doing this. I've been doing this, dude.
When the doctor and Ben are like, the plan is for the two of you to just like sit on your asses. And she's like, no, fuck that. I'm going to come with you all.
Yeah. Jeez, doctor. Catch up.
Yeah, it's 1960, 67 now? 66 maybe?
Right. We're like mid-feminist resurgence by that time. Come on, dude.
Yeah, get with the times.
Yeah. Especially for someone who can travel forward and back in time, like, catch up. Well, yeah, cool. That was fun. My theory then is that since they're taking a Highlander from the past, is they're probably going to go some weird sci-fi direction next serial.
That makes sense. Yeah,
like they did a historical one. They've got a historical, leftover remnant character. They're probably going to catapult to weird sci-fi. That's my bet.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how it goes with a historical companion. Like, I feel like they haven't really tried that before. They kind of thought about it with, what's her name? Katerina, but then they just killed her off, like, immediately.
Right. Yeah, like, I've thought about that a lot, too. Like, what would happen if you, jumped a historical person, like, to our times or whatever, like, is Bach or Beethoven or whoever going to sit there and be like, mein Gott, this music is amazing. Or, like electronic music, is it going to blow their mind, or are they just going to think it's utter trash? Or like, what stuff do we think is super cool and evolved, where a genius from the past would just be like, not really. Or like, would it be like just too much? They wouldn't be able to take it in. They wouldn't.
Yeah, just can't even
context.
Can't even understand what we're trying to show them.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely an interesting thought experiment. So I do hope that's we kind of get to see what the Doctor Who writers do with it with Jamie. Well, awesome. Any further notes on this episode or the serial in general?
No, I think my main note was the bit about Outlanders. So
cool. Well, I'm definitely gonna share that confirmation with my partner. I believe last time we discussed it, I did a cursory search but didn't find anything, and then I think I got distracted and stopped looking. So I'm glad that you did confirm it.
Nice.
And find evidence from Diana Gabaldon.
Yeah, it was like, I'm pretty sure I've heard it before, but yeah, since we had mentioned it, I wanted to just make sure that we knew what we were talking about.
Yeah, well, and it's, significant kind of, it's an inspiration that from Doctor Who that you wouldn't expect, that's still, I guess making reverberations today.
Yeah, totally.
Outlander, the books are still around. The show, I think there's a whole one more season left. That's coming out eventually. So
Nice.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mentioned that I have not actually seen or read it, but I do have an Outlander handkerchief that I got from, is it Stars, the network that they're on?
Yeah.
I got it from the Stars booth at Comic-Con one year.
Nice.
Yeah, just free giveaway or whatnot.
Cool. Blowing your nose like a Highlander.
Uh-huh.
Well, cool. Thanks for telling me about this fun historical serial. I like that one. A lot of times the historical serials aren't really my favorites, but this one was pretty fun.
Yeah, I would agree with that. In general, I probably prefer the more futuristic sci-fi ones, but this is a pretty fun historical. So thank you for listening to me talk all about it, and thank you to our listeners for listening to both of us.
Mm-hmm. And thanks to Circuit 23 for beginning to mull over the idea of a bagpipe version of the Doctor's Watcher theme song.
Nice.
All right, Kyle and listeners, I guess I will see you all in a couple of weeks.
Indeed. Come back in 2 weeks to find out if we do a sci-fi one next.
Indeed. I guess it'll be sci-fi no matter what, but you know what we mean.
Cool.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, you got your own clothes back.
Yes. Can you imagine? I found them thrown out on the rubbish dump behind the inn. Amazing, isn't it? Well, mine should be dry by now.
I liked you better in your dress, Doctor.
Ah, you made a good granny.
Now then, do we all know what we have to do? Ben?
Yep. I take you out of the ship in the rowboat, then double round the back smartish while they're sorting you out, and then pass the weapons through the porthole.
Well, Kirsty and I just sit here and wait for you to get back, if you ever do. No fear.
We've done enough waiting.
But it may be dangerous. They may not swallow my story.
Yeah, and they may say me in the boat. Even with this on.
I would like a hat like that.